Hi, this is Malefic Maid and I'm Ed, and today on part 3 of the Night Lord Exultant I'm going to be doing some finishing touches just so that he's ready to be on the battlefield. This won't be to display standard, but it will be just to kind of have him looking good on the tabletop and appearing as a character should. The only things that I've done off camera are I've matte varnished the back of his armour, and I've done one side of the cloak and I've matte varnished it. So the other side's not done yet, but I'll do that when I stick it on. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start the basing process. So it's going to be very simple. Lunar Desert, which is very similar to Games Workshop's Astro Granite Debris. And I'll also be doing a bit of snow on there, maybe a bit of blood on the snow. So I'm going to paint that on, and then I will move on to some next bits. So things we'll be doing are the eyes, maybe some way of making the vials pop a bit more on him, possibly doing a little bit more in the way of some highlights. You can see there's already a bit of highlight there, but like on the blue shoulder pad. But we're going to try and just do a little bit more just to elevate everything just ever so slightly. Okay, I'm going to do the Lunar Desert off camera, as it's pretty standard stuff that, and then I'll see you in a sec. Okay, so the first layer of the Lunar Desert basing is down, and what we're going to do now is we're going to come in with a bit of Fill in the Ink Colia Green, and we're just going to see what it looks like in that turquoise vial I've done. I think it just needs a little bit of something else in there, so we'll see how that goes. I'm just putting a little bit on the brush. I've not used this before on the turquoise, so I don't actually know what the effect's going to be. Yeah, so it's more gone into like the recesses and stuff there. I guess in such a small area, that's as much as I should expect, really. I like doing the very subtle tint on the needle itself. I imagine they're probably not very good at using fresh needles in the 41st millennium. So I think just having a subtle tint there will be nice. You probably won't notice it on camera, but it'll be enough. So yeah, I quite like that. Maybe I'll just do a bit more kind of in the shading here. So I've just been doing a little bit off camera, not much, but I've just been adding to the highlights of the blue. So I'm using Abteilung 502 Gundam blue, and I'm literally doing what I did in the previous video, but if you haven't seen that, it's just a very small application. So a very small application. And then I'm using Artist Opus extra small dry brush. Now I would say that you don't need these ones. I wouldn't actually even say that they're the best tools for this job, but I just need something smaller than my blending brush. They are good, but they're not super soft. I might try and soften it up using brush cleaner, but we're just blending it out. So hopefully you can just see that there. So it's really, really, really subtle, but I'm just doing that across the model, just looking for those areas where there are highlights. I'll probably do like a more obvious one on the shoulder. The Gundam blue, I don't know if it's all Gundam blue in this range, but the one I've got is actually quite thick. So you might need to thin it down with a little bit of linseed oil or with a bit of brush cleaner. The only thing to note with if you do brush cleaner, and so when I say brush cleaner, I do mean that ZEST product, the non-toxic one. If you do use the brush cleaner, because it's got the dilutant in there, you have to be careful that you don't remove pigment from your previous work, because this isn't matte varnished at the moment. Only the back is. So that's why I'm not thinning mine down. I'm just relying on doing a bit of soft blending out, because when we do the matte varnish, so I use Winsor & Newton professional matte varnish, it's a rattle can spray, it will flatten your layers slightly. And so because of that, I'm not too worried if there's, you know, kind of like a little bit of a appearance of texture. I'm not going for the heavy metal kind of super flat, super clean look. You know, I don't mind there being a bit of texture on there, as it just kind of adds to the more gritty look. Okay, blue highlights are done, and I've just mixed up a concoction. I have no idea if it's going to be any good, of Vallejo Game Colour Fluorescent Orange and a bit of Blood for the Blood God. Just mixed it up in here. As you can see, I've got like the darker red on the side. And I really don't know if it's going to work. I hope it will, but I'm going to try it on the eye lens. So I'm just going to get a little bit on my brush and just very carefully apply. So it's basically just come out as red. Okay, so I've come in with, I dried it with a hairdryer, and then I've come in with another pin wash, but this time I went like more 25% diluent. I think I put way too much diluent in before. Okay, so I think I'm just going to try and bring up the highlights on the bat wings. This is using Abteilung 502 Warm Red, just ever so slightly thinned down. And it's such a thin application here, I'm not going to blend it in. I'm just going to leave it as it is. So I'm just going to do the other wing now, off camera. Cool, so I've done that, and I just use my leftover pin wash to just bring the shadows into the folds of the wings. And I've also cleaned up the skull with a little bit of titanium white, I think it is. No, Snow White, sorry, from Abteilung 502. All right, so I'm hoping the base is dry enough. I'm doing this on the same day that I actually based it, so I might have to stop. I'm going to be doing a wash of Drakenhosh Nightshade on it. Okay, so I just dried the base off using a hairdryer, just you always want to do it on the lowest setting. And as you can see, it looks a lot less purple now that it's dried in. The tone like matches quite nicely. And so now we're going to come in with a dry brush of Pallid Witch Flesh. So I'll probably just use this large brush again. Just coming in at an angle as well, if you'll notice. I don't really want to catch any of the recess areas. And I don't mind if the application is like quite vivid. And if there's anywhere where I feel that I've kind of messed up, I mean, I'm going to be coming in with snow as the next step. So I can always just cover up any area where I've gone OTT or doesn't look quite right with snow. So it's, as basing goes, it's a very forgiving step, this. Okay, so I'm going to be using AK Interactive Snow Sprinkles. I really like this product. There are a lot of great snow products out there. I'm quite fond of this one. So, using the same brush that I just used, you don't need to be particularly neat. So straight out the pot, we'll do the back first as we always do, just because if you make a mistake, it's going to be less obvious. And we're just going to try and randomly apply it. I think the thing with anything like this, and this goes for like, you know, when you do stuff like lightning or even flames, is you just don't want to be, you want chaos, you want chaos, basically. You don't want it to look too designed. So I'm just coming in with kind of, I'm trying not to think too much about my brush strokes here. I'm just trying to apply it down sporadically. As I think, I don't know, there's just something a bit, like, it looks better, a bit more natural that way. Okay, so I've just glued the backpack on. As you can see, it's not painted yet, so I'm just gonna try and do this fairly quickly. So I'm coming in with the Streaking Grime for Panzer Grey. This is the initial wash pass that we do now that the base acrylic layers are on here. Don't have to be too careful. Now I'm going to come in with a makeup sponge. I get these from Boots, just the wedges. These ones are quite useful just because the wedge means that you can get into those slightly harder areas. We're just going to come in now, even while it's... Sometimes people let this settle for a bit and dry for a little bit before they come in, but I'm fine with it just being a very light, thin coat. All I wanted was just to get into the recesses and add a bit of shading in and just have something for the oils to blend with when I apply them. So what I do is I just work my way across whatever areas I need to, wherever the blue is going to be. This initial pass as well, it's always going to, if you do it the way that I've been doing it, it's always going to go on much darker. So this first pass is just getting another layer for future oil paint to sit on. Cool, so yeah, literally just doing that. Just rinse and repeat until you're happy with the level. So I'm going to do a bit more of this off camera just to bring it up to kind of try and match the other areas, because the other areas you can see there, they've got like the highlights are a bit brighter, and I will see you in a sec. Now we're going to move on to the flesh. I'm using Abteilung 502 light flesh tone. So yeah, if you haven't seen before, sorry, this is soft blender brush. So it's called a special effects brush, and I got this from Cass Art. It's about £5. So it's very reasonable for the amount of use that you can get out of it with oils. I really like how those colours come out. I think they're really nice. So that's just the acrylic layer was dark oath contrast flesh, then Streaking Grime for Panzer Grey, and then the light flesh tone. And I think that's quite a nice flesh tone, kind of, you know, dried, tanned skin is what it would be, because Night Lords are nice like that. Might be putting a little bit too much on here, but we can always come in later on with a wash to bring it back down. I just thought this is quite a nice area as well to just show you a bit more of working with oils. As you can see, I'm not being particularly careful. I'm just applying the oil roughly where I want it, then coming in with the soft blending brush and blending it out. All right, so I think that's looking pretty good. So as you can see, it's a different tone to the way I did it before, because the way I did it before, I let the grime, like, it dried more. So this is blended more with the Streaking Grime, and I think that's fine, because ultimately these are flesh from probably different people and stuff, so it just makes it look a bit interesting. So now that we've done that one, I think I'll go in with, I'll probably use just pure Skull White to go in for the bone. So I'll be back in 2 secs. All right, so I've done those, fairly subtle. I'll probably have to come in with some washes to help distinguish between them. So now I'm just going to do the little bit of sort of metal that are on the sides of the backpack here. Just going to be coming in with AK Interactive True Metal Brass. And I have thinned this down with the dilutant, as it's a wax-based oil paint, so can apply quite heavy. So you probably noticed actually, so unlike with say the blue oil paint, I don't come in with this, dab it on and blend it out. I find that when you dilute this down, you can just come in with it and apply it straight onto the model and paint it on as if it were an acrylic. What would happen if you did it like the way that I do with the blue oil paint, if you dab it on and then blend it, because it's got the metal pigment in, it has a really interesting effect where you can effectively almost like polish the metal to bring out more of a shine into it. So it's a really interesting paint. As it is, I use it in a more traditional style, especially on these really small areas, because getting brushes that small to be able to kind of like buff the area to create the polished shine would be really tricky without potentially spreading the paint to other areas of the model. All right, so I've done a few basic bits off camera. So like the bat wings and a bit of verdigris on the studs, on the shoulder pads. I've also done you can't really see it in this lighting, but I've done the metal ringlets holding the flesh together. The light at the moment in here is really washing the colours out, so sadly it's not really showing stuff off to how it actually looks. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to come in with a small amount of Abteilung 502 dead flesh. And we're going to put that on this guy here. As I notice that it's like a skull with a bit of flesh still clinging to it. So I just want that to be differentiated a little bit, have the flesh rotting a bit maybe. Hey, so my phone battery died, so I had to do a bit of painting off camera. I used Villainy ink carrying crimson on the studs, and I also used it on the little staples holding the skin cloak together. I put black on the rim of the base, and I'm going to matte varnish it with Winsor & Newton Professional Matte Varnish, as I quite like the look it leaves, and then that will also protect it so it's ready for when I want to do anything more to it. I was going to do weathering and the like, but these videos have already gone like about 20 minutes long each, so I figure I'd like to just kind of wrap it up there. However, I will be doing more videos and I'll be coming back to Night Lords at some point. I think one of the next ones I do will probably be one of the True Sons of Horus. So I really liked how the teal came out on this. This was the test model for it, and I've got a bunch of them that I'm going to be painting up. I'll just pop this on the turntable now so that you guys can see it. And yeah, thank you very much for following along with these videos. If you'd like to support the channel, I do have a Element Games coupon code, which gets you double element crystals. Or if you want to use any of the products that I've used, I also have some affiliate links. But obviously, if you have access to a good local store that has those products in, you know, just get the best price you can, because it is an expensive hobby we're in. And yeah, just thanks very much, guys. If you enjoyed these videos, please consider dropping a like. It would be much appreciated, especially for a very new channel like mine. And I'm looking forward to doing more videos for you in the future. Alright, cheers very much all. Have a nice one.